I had a tough time deciding the title for this video. Be a better programmer. How to increase your pay. Why do I make more money than average coders? What do employers really think about programmers? Frankly, the content is the same. If you want to be a better programmer, you'll do these things. Employers will notice and it will increase your pay. My name is Alec. I'm a full stack developer and I own and run Programming Labs, a software development company that's been around for over 15 years. Let's get started. Be a better programmer. There are 9 habits and skills that every programmer needs to be a better programmer. Number 1, do not start coding until you have written specifications. If you were given a task during a Zoom meeting or a phone call or some other way and there's no written specs, your first job is to write the functional specification. Write it and send it back to the project manager or the client and have them approve it before you start, because once they see it in writing, they're probably going to change it or add more things to it. So before you write a single line of code, get a functional specification written down and approved. Number 2, unit testing. Debug your code. You need to be very good at knowing how to do full unit testing on your code. I had one programmer that worked for me for 11 years, and after the first year, everybody noticed, the project manager and the client, that this person was so good that not a single bug ever got into the production server. We had a development server environment and a production server environment. And he did all this testing and development, then he did unit testing for every possible scenario before he put it onto the production server. Well, once the client and the project manager noticed that this guy was perfect every single time, they stopped having to test his code. Without having to test his code, that meant he was much more valuable to the company. During the last 5 years of his time in my company, his billable rate was $115 an hour. Now this was between 2010 and 2015, so quite a long time ago. That $115 was worth more than it is today, and that was per hour. It wasn't until his 8th year that he let one bug slip into the production server, and it was a minor one, but we all gave him a hard time for it. And then on his 9th year, he had a second bug slip in. It was like, oh, this is so minor. And he retired on his 11th year without having a third bug in his entire career at our company. Incredible. If you do good unit testing, your rate can go way higher than the average coder. Number 3, coding standards. Have good coding standards and naming conventions. This is so important. I made a whole nother video about it. Check it out. Number 4, know your tools. It blows my mind when I meet programmers that have good development tools, but then they don't know how to use them fully. They haven't watched all the tutorials. They haven't downloaded any plugins to enhance their tools. They just do the bare minimum to get by. What are you thinking? You need to learn how to make the macros or the snippets or whatever that tool calls it, so that you type a couple of letters and it writes a whole bunch of code for you. You need to make sure that your syntax is standardized because you're using those macros and snippets. You need to verify you have a good text compare file program. And once every month or two, check the newest plugins. See if there's any new features or skills that you can bring down to your tool. And master your tool and you will be a masterful programmer. Which brings me to the next one. Number 4, macros and snippets. Be a macro king or macro queen. If you are using macros, your indentation is perfect every time, your spacing is perfect every time, you have standardized syntax. It makes it so that you don't make stupid mistakes that take minutes and minutes and sometimes longer to debug because you're never having to put in that semicolon or colon. That's put in by the macro or the snippet. And you shouldn't just be using the macros and snippets that came with the program. You should write your own macros and snippets. It takes you 5 minutes and then you have a perfect macro that you can reuse for years. And update your macros as needed. I write macros that are specific to whatever client I'm working with. So with 2 letters, I can have a select statement that uses their user table and pulls in their most common column names. Number 6, code library. Some things are too big to be in a macro, in which case put it in a code library, organize your code library so you can find that code that you need very quickly and easily. For example, SQL cursor loops. That's a lot of code, and write it once, make it perfect with all the debug lines in there, with perfect syntax, with anything that you think, with a wait timer in there if you need it, so that you can have the perfect SQL cursor loop that you can then reuse anytime you need a SQL cursor loop without having to search where was the last page that I used this in, or the last stored procedure that I used this in, and search all your code to find a decent one that you can copy. No, you should have a code library designated for big pieces of code that you reuse, maybe not every week, but maybe once a month or two. Go to it, get it organized, have a good code library. Number 7, understanding RDBMS. I don't care if you're a SQL person or not. If you are a SQL person, you better understand relational database management systems. Even if you're a PHP or JavaScript or Python or whatever other programmer, RDBMS is not difficult to understand. Invest the time to understand basic database management. It's not that hard, and once you understand it and then you familiarize yourself with the client's database, you will be much more valuable as a team member, because when they ask for something, you'll be able to understand it and maybe even make recommendations of, hey, this could be much more powerful if we include this aspect. Number 8, be a quick study. Learn how to learn and know the jargon so that you can do quick searches to find the information that you need. And number 9, this gets back to number 1. Number 9 is reread the specification right before you say you're finished. When you're about to say, I'm finished, I'm submitting this project, it is done, don't. Go back to the original specification and read through every line and check off every item. Did I finish this? Did I finish this? Yes, this is finished. Verify one final time before you say it's finished. Why? Because nothing pisses off a client more, or a project manager or your QA team more, than submitting a final product when there's one stupid little mistake. Because let's say your task had 10 things on it that you were supposed to do, and number 4 was a really silly, simple, little tiny thing. And so you think, oh, I'll get to that one later. I need to get the hard part done first. You get all the hard parts done, you rack your brain, you finish this beautiful amount of code, and you forgot to do number 4. You submit it. The person downloads the information, sets up their data set, sets up their test environment, starts their testing, spends half an hour to 45 minutes testing everything, checking that it's working on multiple devices. Whatever their test scenario is, it could take a very long time to do. They set up the data, they start their testing, they get 45 minutes into it, and they see that number 4 never got finished. Not because you put a bug in it, not because it's broken. You just missed it. You forgot about it because it wasn't that hard. Well, now they have to write up in an email and say, this part is not working, and send it back to you. Now you have to recheck it out of Git, set up your data environment, set up your test environment, do all this extra stuff so you can do that one minor little fix and resubmit it. Okay, you've wasted your time, your project manager's time, maybe the client's time, because you didn't spend that extra 5 minutes reading through the specification before you sent it to say, is everything done? It's one of the biggest pet peeves of any project manager or client. So do that so that when you submit it, there's nothing minor that has to be turned down, and then they have to do, because they can't just say, oh, I'm just going to test number 4. No, they have to retest everything on the list, because when you added number 4, you could have broken something else. So they have to retest everything and waste all that time. So number 9, reread the specifications that you had from number 1 and verify everything's finished on it. I hope that helps. Add in the comments what your favorite tool is, and if you think there's any other important skills that need to be added to the list. And now, what do employers really think about programmers? I can answer that both as an employer and also as a project manager who has worked with a lot of different clients. First, they don't really care where you got your education. Second, they don't really care what tools you're using. In fact, they probably don't even know. Just pick which tools work best for you in your industry and become really good at them. Third, they really don't care what hours of the day you work. All they really care about is getting results. They want it done yesterday and they want it bug-free. So you need to have the good skills listed above regarding using macros and snippets and your tools properly so that your syntax is right, so it saves you time, so that you spend less time debugging and more time being productive. And then the next thing they care about is money. If you're the type of developer that is working with a client or an employer and they give you like 10 tasks and they say all these need to be done and you're working on those during the week, they may or may not prioritize those tasks for you. I highly recommend that you look at the tasks and you prioritize them unless they are specifically saying doing them in this particular order. You prioritize them so that you put the ones that either increase revenue for the company at the top or reduce costs at the top. Quantify what you're working on when you deliver the project, by the way. If you did something that reduced costs, then when you say this task is done, you should say this task is done and it is estimated it's going to save the company this amount of money per month or this amount per year. And that is always good for your reputation in the company. The next thing is clients are visual. If you're working with clients and you have a long task list and you're able to prioritize your own tasks, then try to make sure that at least one of your tasks per week has a visual element. Although the client or the employer may intellectually understand that you're doing important work, you're optimizing the database, you're writing an incredibly complicated stored procedure, you're writing this great code that automates so much of their business. They intellectually understand that, but on an emotional level, they can't see it. You need to give them something visual every week if possible. And it's weird. You can spend 37 hours writing the most ingenious code in the world and automating all this amount of incredible things. And they'll say, oh, I love that widget of that little graph that you created. The widget took you 3 hours. You spent 37 hours on this incredibly complicated code. And what are they going to remember that week? The widget, because it's visual. So every week, try to give them something visual in addition to doing your other tasks. That will make them happy. By the way, like if this video has been of any help. And now on to the next item. Why I make more money than other coders, and you can too. If you follow the advice from this video and you understand the motivations of clients or employers, then you can raise your rates with confidence. This is what I tell clients or prospective clients when I'm talking to them. Why, yes, my rate is higher than average, but that's because of my experience and my skills and my ability to write code and have very quick development times because of my vast code library. And I'm so confident that what I believe is, let me work for you for 1 week. And if you're not happy with the code that I deliver that week, fire me and we can part friends. This usually works. And then I also tell them, look, during the first week, I'm going to send you multiple updates, at least 2, where I'm going to send you what's going on so far in the code. make sure that at least one of those updates it has a visual impact. And also, I'll communicate openly and quickly if there's any obstacles that I see that may affect timelines in any task or project. And this is not a long-term contract. I'm not trying to lock you into a multi-year contract. My company, we believe in working week by week. We hope that we work with you 5-10 years like we have with many of our other clients that are very happy. But we aren't locking you into a contract, and if at any time you're not satisfied, we fully expect you to tell us this will be your final week, and then we just hand over all the code and that's it. We part friends. I'm that confident that this will be a long, prosperous business relationship for both of us. It's really that easy. And then say, let me give you a quick demo. We're off the clock and show you what I'm talking about. And then you pull out one of your portfolio projects and you show them how you write code using macros and copy and paste from your code library, and that you can build something very quick right before their eyes that compiles and runs, and they will see how with a couple of clicks you're generating 4, 5, 6 lines of code, and its syntax is perfect, indentation is perfect, and that's when they start to realize this person is a professional. They know how to use their tools. They're not going to end up giving us buggy, crappy code with no indentation. That helps seal the deal. And then you also just tell them, look, my rate is higher because I'm better. That's why. In summary, set a goal for yourself. Every month, improve your skills, your process flow, and your tool usage. For example, improve your macros or snippets so that with a couple of keystrokes, it writes more code for you. And have that code be perfect. Perfect indentation, perfect in spacing. Add to your code library and get your code library really organized so you can find whatever you're looking for very quickly and easily on both your laptop and your desktop. Also, do a little research every month on, are there any new plugins or enhancements to your current tools? If so, download them, experiment, see if they improve your process flow. Also, if you're into web development, look into Firefox Develop Browser. It's got some amazing tools for web developers that include great tutorials on videos. So always be improving your skills and your tool usage so you become a better programmer. I hope this has helped. Like if you like this video, subscribe for more on the business of programming. And now for the joke of the day. A programmer is walking down the beach and he finds a lamp in the sand. He picks it up and he rubs it to polish it, and a genie appears. The genie comes out and says, "I am a most powerful genie. I can grant you any wish, but only one wish." The programmer thinks about it for a moment. He pulls out of his pocket a map and he opens it up. He says, "Here in the Middle East, I wish for peace in the Middle East." The genie says, "Well, gee, there's been fighting and problems and war there for centuries, thousands of years. I think that might be beyond even my limits." The programmer says, "Well, all right, I'm a software developer and I have some web applications that have thousands of users. My wish is make all the users happy and satisfied and have them only ask for sensible changes and updates." The genie thinks for a moment and says, "Give me back that map." Have a great day. Subscribe for more on the business of programming.